Bitcoin just recently passed above $23,000, but is the run going to continue on? Are we going to be seeing a pullback? What are other people talking about with this? What are my thoughts on this? We're going to get into all of that. I'll share my thoughts at the end of the video. We have an article here highlighting other traders' points of views. This article is from Cointelegraph. I'll have a link to this down in the description below. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Everything I'm sharing is my own opinion. It's my own research. I highly encourage you to go do your own research. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into the news. The title of the article here is Dead Cat Bounce. Bitcoin price nears $23,000 in fresh 5-month high. Now, to stress this real quick, in case you don't know what a dead cat bounce is, it's sort of a fake out. You have signs of what looks like a recovery is going on, only for it to end up reversing, dropping down in price, hitting even harder. So it's a little bit of a recovery phase, but it's a fake out. So this goes on to say Bitcoin is not far from reclaiming its 200-week moving average, which I'll show you guys in just a little bit. But traders are still highly suspicious of the bullish Bitcoin price action. Bitcoin took a swing at $23,000 into January 21st as Asia buyers drove fresh market strength. Bid liquidity causes suspicion. Data from Cointelegraph Markets Pro and TradingView showed Bitcoin USD battling bears to reach $22,790 on Bitstamp overnight, its highest since August. With new multi-month peaks coming in quick succession despite fears of a major correction, Bitcoin continued to surprise as traders cleared the way for more upside. As noted by intraday trader Skew, Asia was leading the way into the weekend, with sell-side pressure from market makers being absorbed on exchanges. Another rally driven by Asia bid. TWAP buyers absorbing the sell pressure from MMs. Large spot bid lifting offers and ask wall pulled prior to another short squeeze. Skew commented on a composite chart. On-chain analytics resource material indicators meanwhile flagged ask liquidity being removed on Binance the day prior, this allowing Bitcoin's initial run beyond the $22,000 mark. Volatility continues. Don't give it all back. Be sure to take some profit along the way, it wrote in part of a subsequent update. As ever, Bitcoin was far from above suspicion at its latest highs, with some familiar faces still urging traders to prepare for the worst. The bigger the pump, the harder Bitcoin will fall down, analyst Tony Guinea tweeted, while Crypto Tony argued that the entire move may be nothing more than a dead cat bounce. Regardless if this is dead cat relief wave or a reversal on Bitcoin, it is great to see some optimism back in crypto, he summarized. Considering why further gains were coming after the end of the week's TradeFi trading, one popular commentator additionally suggested that traders were being manipulative. No one who genuinely wants to buy and own crypto waits until the Friday close each week to execute, an update read, adding that those buyers' aim is clear. Earlier in the week, material indicators had likewise warned of choreographed bidding on Bitcoin. Key moving average on the horizon. Attention thus focused on the upcoming weekly close for Bitcoin USD, which if current prices were to sustain, would be its best since mid-August. At the same time, Bitcoin looked to be about to print a so-called death cross on the weekly chart, with the descending 50 weekly moving average about to cross over the still rising 200 weekly moving average. A major target was the 200-week moving average, currently at $24,650 and out of reach for much of 2022. Okay, now diving into my thoughts, my point of view on this. Let's go ahead and pull up TradingView. And over here on TradingView, I have a 20 moving average and a 200 moving average. You can see that we passed above the thin green line, which is the 20 moving average, and we're getting very close to that 200. The 200 was what was being stressed inside of that article that's there. So we did actually pass above $23,000 earlier today, at one point hitting a high of $23,362. Since then, it showed some pullback, now sitting just a little bit under $22,800, but very close to this line, right? We're talking about a little bit of a difference here from 24,565. So roughly about a little around $1,000 difference between those. And seeing as we've got these previous weekly charts, because this is what we're showing this right now is on the weekly, within a week's time span, could we pass above $1,000? Yeah, I mean, we've seen $1,000 move in Bitcoin over the course of a single day before. So realistically, is it possible? It's very possible. It could definitely end up happening. And here we are. We are for the week of January 16th. And when we move into the next weekly candle, it's positioning itself quite well. We can also see a little bit of a change starting to take place on that lower line, on that 20 moving average. You can see that the line starting to incline up just a little bit here as of back on the Monday, January 2nd, indicating line off of the weekly charts. And so as that line continues to climb back up, there creates more of an opportunity where we could see those cross over one another, and just showing even more bullish signs of a further continuation on. So as we can see down in these periods, such as back around April 8th, it had, actually more around February 4th, right around this point in time, it looked like it was about to tap off of that yellow line, started to push itself back up, and there was a really, really close convergence taking place around that April 8th time period between these two different moving averages. And so you can see a substantial run that took place going up there, shooting from a price point of about $4,000 up to a high of almost $14,000. So a substantial price increase back in Bitcoin in those days. That was back in 2019. And when we look at this as a wider scale view, you can see that on the weekly, it doesn't really appear like, oh, there's much history with that of Bitcoin. But again, we're looking at this on the weekly, right? So there's a long period of time where this green line has stayed above that yellow line. And now here we are where the green line has been for weeks underneath this yellow line. And given the historical trend of Bitcoin, look at how long this has basically stayed above that line. The fact that we've seen it dip below suggests to me that if this decides that it wants to cross back over that yellow line, we very well could end up seeing an extensive period of time where once again it remains above that line. Think about the design of Bitcoin, how it has the halving event every 4 years. It has a limited supply of 21 million that looks to be cutting off around 2140. So you got those factors coming into play. You have a lot of the larger institutional investors such as MicroStrategy and Grayscale that are coming into play here. Countries such as El Salvador that are making it their actual country's currency. Things of that nature those are bullish sentiments. Recently, you also saw with the United States government that they stepped forward and they said, hey, look, we want to crack down on the bad players, but we're still supporting the crypto industry as a whole. And you got organizations like the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, that's looking at Bitcoin and they're saying, oh, that's not a security. The issue is that they're claiming that like everything else is a security and Bitcoin's the only one that's not. The only good thing that we can really talk about with that, I mean, I guess there's multiple things, but the main one I'm going to highlight for you is that they're more or less saying Bitcoin, good, Bitcoin, fine. And because of that, you're going to see more comfortable, larger scale investors willing to go in on Bitcoin. What we have yet to see is a Bitcoin ETF in the United States. A lot of people have been saying this for a while now. If we get a Bitcoin ETF approved in the United States, that also could very well be a launch signal for Bitcoin to really take off. You may not agree with that, but there are a lot of people that have been saying we've been waiting on that, and a lot of other institutional investors are waiting with money on the side for that go ahead. We do have Bitcoin ETFs in other countries, though, which is kind of weird that the United States is the one that's fallen behind on this. And I believe there's a lawsuit going on right now against the SEC because they keep denying the approval, even though there's major companies that keep putting in their applications to get a Bitcoin ETF approved. So we'll have to see what happens next with that. Maybe within the next 6 months, we'll finally get the announcement of a Bitcoin ETF. What do you guys think? You think that's possible? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think that Bitcoin is going to cross above this line? Do you think we're in a bull market or are we in a bear market still? Is this a fake out, that dead cat bounce? Let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Overall, the way that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking it's looking pretty darn good. So last thing I guess I'll touch on is the debt ceiling limit did not get passed. We have that delayed till June now. And it's going to be a very critical point when June comes up. We could see a repeat of something that happened around 2011, which was not good circumstances. You don't want to dangle the debt ceiling limit over people's heads as some sort of a toy to try and manipulate the other side into bending to your whim, basically, and ending up hurting the American people. So hopefully they'll get that approved, because the money has already been approved essentially in the past for what it needs to be paid for. These are bills. That's the whole point of the debt ceiling limit, is that money goes to pay these bills and the debts that we have. But it's already been talked about what the money was supposed to be going for. Now they're trying to play some shenanigans here at the last minute and get things adjusted. So it's very frustrating for these kinds of moments if you actually do follow really in depth into the politics. But my point with bringing that up is that kicked the can down the road. So there's a couple months that are going on right now, but when this comes up in June, if they don't push that through, it could be catastrophic for our economy. And we could end up seeing a significant crash inside of stocks and potentially crypto. So just be prepared that although things are looking really good right now, there is significant concern for what could end up happening in June. So do keep that in mind. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please go do your own research on this stuff. It's just my point of view on it. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. A double shout out thank you to WeLoveSafeman.com, Victor Vegas, Safeman Oz for being higher level patrons. Also, thank you to my YouTube members for your support. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up, like button. God bless, and we will see you in the next episode.